Hello, everybody. My guest today is my chiropractor and a friend of mine. I've been seeing him for quite some time now. I did take a break in there. We talked about that right at the beginning. But this is a great episode. We, right off the bat, in a Nerd Out segment, we get into making sourdough bread and snowboarding. Talk about his high school coaching, his dabble in coaching soccer, then why he chose to go to college and what it was for. His origin story, as he said, which is pretty interesting, on why he became a chiropractor, going to chiropractic school, and of course his practice, Rebel Chiropractic. We talk about that and how that came to be with him and his dad. It was a great episode. Talked a lot. It was a good nerd episode. So again, thanks to Fort Meigs CrossFit for allowing me to be in their space and use their studio up here. If you need anything from them, they have classes for anybody, beginners, people who've been doing CrossFit for a long time, 7 days a week. Check out their website, fortmeigscrossfit.com. Without further ado, here's my guest.
My name's Tyler Schwanz, and this is the Nerdball podcast.
This is the Nerdball podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
Perfect, man. Thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lorenzo.
I think I told the guest last week, it was after we were done, I'm pretty good at asking people who are not going to say no. So
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, so I appreciate you coming on here. You've been my chiropractor for a while, and I was thinking coming over here, I was like, it feels, because I was there for a while, then I left for several years, came back, and it feels like when you go to the dentist and then you skip a year or two and then you go back, you feel like you're going back with your tail between your legs.
Totally.
And that's what I felt like. But no one there made me feel like, oh, you're back. I knew it.
Good.
So I appreciate that. And you've helped me a lot.
Sweet.
It started with Andy, our friend Andy Wright, who's a chiropractor in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Who he said, before I was going to have my second surgery, and he said, don't do that. Come see me. And he helped me out, never had a surgery. And then when he moved, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Right.
And then he hooked me up with you, and it's been awesome. So I appreciate all the stuff that you've done for me.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
We're still working on one. It's getting better. I got a new mattress, so that helps a lot too.
Yeah.
It's
a big thing, It's like sometimes people ask their chiropractor all sorts of questions about their bed and their pillow and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, find whatever works for you.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, but it isn't really. I would imagine what you're doing isn't going to be messed up by sleeping.
No,
right?
no. What we're doing is far less to do with the biomechanics of it, and much more to do with like how your brain is processing where your lower back is in space. But yeah.
All right, so I would definitely get on to that because I feel like obviously you're. Compared to me, you're an expert on what you're doing. Yeah. Whenever there's questions, whenever there's any, like, you always answer them, and you're like spot on, and you give me an answer, and if you don't know the answer. I feel like you would, it's never happened with me, but I feel like, hey, I'm not quite sure. We'll adjust you, and then I'll look into it, and I'll let you know next time or whatever.
Right.
But I have full confidence. Even my daughter comes and watches. She's like wide-eyed, like, what's happening?
I see her face. Yeah. She's not the only one.
Oh, I'm sure. But the question I ask everybody first is, what is something you've been nerding out about lately? Something that you're really into, some books, movies, cooking, anything, something you've been doing for years or something you just started. It just can't be about work. Okay. Something that gets you away from that.
This is like the easiest question in the world.
Yeah?
You ask somebody who, like, I don't know. I've been accused of having too many hobbies.
Oh, yeah.
Because I just like have so many interests and so many things. Like, oh, man. So what am I doing right now?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you see around the practice, like, I am pretty deep into the sourdough game.
I saw those, yep.
So I was up at 3 a.m. this morning tending to my sourdough.
Wait, why'd you have to get up at 3 a.m.?
So you don't have to, but if I don't want it to like take over my entire day and cut into family time, I do it like 3:30 in the morning. It's all about timing. It's all about timing, turns, and temperature. If you want to learn something about sourdough today,
this is
timing,
what it's about,
turns, and sour and temperature.
Yeah.
So with when I put my starter into the dough and mixed it up last night, I knew that right around 6 hours later, it was going to be ready to be portioned out. Okay. And so I made 9 loaves this morning. I portioned them out anyway. And that just happened to hit right around 3:30 this morning. So, yeah.
So you knew starting it last night, this is what it's going to be.
I did. And I knew what I was getting myself into, but it's all right.
So have you been up since 3:30?
I have.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Is that a normal thing?
It is. Yeah. On the weekends anyway, because we're giving it away as like a free gift in the office.
Okay.
I'm having to make lots and lots of sourdough. So, and I say have to, but I really do. Truly, it's weird, but like, I really enjoy it.
The picture of you in the office is like you're holding 2 babies. You know?
Yeah, I know. It's about as good as it gets. But yeah, I love sourdough. Okay. I mean, like I said, I have a million hobbies. So I mean, I love snowboarding. I just got back from a trip with my brother out west snowboarding.
Is that something you've done since you were little?
I started snowboarding when I was 27, which, by the way, I'm 37, almost 37 now, and 27 is way too old to learn how to snowboard. It's probably one of the most painful ages you can learn how to snowboard. It's just like you need to learn that stuff when you're a kid so that when you fall, it doesn't hurt so much. But yeah, snowboarding.
Well, I feel that same way. So I work at downtown at Glass City, so we have an ice skating ribbon there. And people always ask me, "Have you been ice skating? Have you been ice skating?" I said, "No, I'm never going ice skating. I've never been ice skating in my life. I'm not going to start at 38."
Yeah,
you know,
terrible timing.
I've watched older gentlemen out there fall, and it is not a good time.
No.
And I do not. You know, as much as I like you, I don't want to have to see you a lot.
For sure,
you know.
So, for sure.
And that's what's going to happen. This guy fell. I thought it was his back. I'm sure his back was sore, but he fell almost on his leg, which would have broke it. Yeah. But he fell enough where it like twisted his ankle and his knee. And I was like, I don't want to do that. So I feel you on that.
I don't blame you. I have a scar right here on my head from ice skating.
Oh, really?
It was like the first time I had gone ice skating ever. It was my first week of college, actually. I was just like with all of these new friends, and I was like, cool, this is like my college crew. Like, this is what I'm going to. And we went out to, I was at Ohio State. And we went out to the ice skating rink, and it was my first lap around. And my buddy from New Jersey was like really good, and I was like, "How do you hockey stop? Is it pretty easy?" He's like, "Oh yeah, it's super easy.
Is it easy?
You just go super fast, and then you just." And I was like, "Sounds good to me." I did like a triple axel, but like horizontally.
Oh yeah.
And then landed right on my face. My glasses broke and spread out over. I was cut right here. Yeah, it was like. It was a way to enter college for sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The way I knew it wasn't going to end well. I mean, you started the story with a scar, but the guy's just like, yeah, you just go fast and then just stop. You're like, well, that doesn't tell me anything.
Yeah, that's
and you being a college student is like, perfect, got it.
That is not how you do it, by the way.
So sourdough, I got into a few years ago. I got into making. I don't do it anymore. Italian bread.
Oh yeah.
My in-laws are Italian, so I'd make bread, which is
awesome.
a lot easier than sourdough because you don't have to have that starter you know.
Yeah.
But it was good. I really liked it. It is fun. It's also because bread tastes good regardless of the shape it's in. So when there's like weird shapes, sometimes it looks like it's not going to be appetizing, but it's still bread. It's still
so good. Yeah. You can't lose with that.
Yeah. What you said you have a bunch of hobbies. What does your wife think of all these hobbies? How does she feel about them?
She's good. You know, over the years, I think she's like, as long as they don't take away from the family. And I think, I don't know, a lot of my hobbies I try to include in the family, like with the bread making. My younger son, I have 2 sons, my now 6-year-old, he does like to get his hands in the dough and get messy. And so like there will be weekends where I don't do it at 3 a.m. so that he can get involved, or if I'm just making normal bread or whatever. But yeah, and then snowboarding, like I took the boys a couple of weekends ago up to do that. That's a dream of mine, is to be able to like age with them and like ski with them. They're skiing, I'm snowboarding, but I'd love to be able to do that with them for my entire life. I just never really got into hobbies that are like golf, which right now would take me away from the family for like 3 hours, 4 hours at a time. I do enjoy doing things with them for sure.
When you do you tend to like stick with these things for a while, or is it like I have a hobby and I'm going to do it for, it might be a year or two, and they're like, all right, well that's done, all right, and then maybe pick it up again years later or whatever, or do you tend to?
I think I've been both. Just because if you have a lot of interest, you don't know if you're truly like interested in it until you go all in and burn out, or like the bread thing's been going on for darn near 3.5 years now, so I think that's probably a total shift. Snowboarding the same way. One thing that I'm interested in is cold plunges. Have you had anybody on talk about cold plunges?
No, I have not.
I was like, that's fascinating.
Yeah,
I'm definitely doing that. A buddy of mine had a 55-gallon drum from work that he washed out and cut the top off of, and he's like, come on over. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. I got addicted. So like I got like 100-gallon just like Rubbermaid thing at my house. And I'm like, this is kind of like a low barrier, cheap kind of way to get into it. And if I'm really into it over the summer and everything like that, maybe it'll be a lifestyle change too. So but I love doing that.
So I'm assuming, have you like dove into like why people do it or why it's like healthy for you?
Yeah. And even like all the health benefits aside, like I'm sure there are health benefits, but all that aside, I do it strictly just for mental toughness.
Yeah?
Yeah, like I'm sure it's helping my metabolism and my immune system and all that kind of stuff, but it's like slaying a dragon at 5 a.m. when I go out there and it's dark and I'm like, I'm the only person, no one's going to know if I don't do it. I could just say that I did it, walk back in, whatever, but no, like you get in it. And I like to stay in it for like at least 5 minutes, but like up to 10 minutes. If it's above 40 degrees, like 10 minutes or something like that. Yeah. I tell you what, minute 7, like this overwhelming peace, like the pain, the coldness goes away, and it's just like peace. And it's just like, this is why I do this. So, mental toughness is why I do it for sure.
That's probably not one for the whole family.
We did it once. They were not happy. They stayed in a total of maybe like 5 seconds, but that's okay. They think it's cool.
Is your family tired of eating sourdough bread?
No, they're not. They're tired of when I do a huge batch bake and none of it's for them. Pretty much all of it's for customers or all of it's for the office or whatever. Yeah, they get very excited when some of it is for them.
Do you sell it too, or do you?
I do.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I have a website and I sell it. A couple of months ago, I shifted the business to be more so like bulk orders, so that if somebody wanted to order like 10 orders or like 10 loaves of sourdough, like I'd be happy to do a batch for them. Okay. Just because with working full time at the office, and I also work full time, or it seems like sometimes with a chiropractic mastermind that helps like chiropractic students get out of school and open up successfully. And
so you are that? So it's like a mentor or what?
Yeah, it's like a mentorship. Okay. I'm a mentor in it, and so we travel to schools and we present like, hey, this is our story, this is our experience, these were our mistakes, this is things that you could avoid or things that you should look into, and we try to stay, I guess, up to speed on what the trends are in the industry. So I do that in the office and the baking. So I try to manage my time very closely. So
you have to.
Yeah, it can take over your life very easily.
Yeah. Wow. I can't get off sourdough. I have another question.
Keep going. I love it. I could talk the whole time.
So
I love it.
So when you just like when you go to the store or go anywhere and you get sourdough, is there just like one kind of sourdough? You know what I mean? Like, or do you make? Can you make it different by saying like this is a different? You put different spices or something in it, or is it just sourdough?
So arguably, this is okay. You do have nerd in your name, so we're just gonna nerd out on it for a second.
Yes.
Arguably, I think that every person's sourdough could be a little bit different just because their starter is made up of a unique biodiverse group of bacteria and yeast and everything like that. My starter, I keep what's called a stiff starter, meaning I keep it with a higher percentage of flour than water. I travel with my starters so that if I like go out west or if I go to Atlanta, then I'll take that little mason jar and I'll open up and put it out on the sill overnight so that arguably I have like bacteria from all over the country that are raising my bread now. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I use a mixture of flours. So I use a mixture of rye, a mixture of whole wheats that comes from North Dakota, and then a mixture of bread flour. And I mill my own flour at home. So I know, see? Like...
Of course.
Yes. So I mill about a 30% home milled and then 70% bread flour. Okay. And then maybe about 10% of that is rye. So
yeah, that's so interesting.
I think it's pretty cool.
That's crazy. Yeah. And and I'm sure for you, like I like when people ask me questions about like certain things or whatever I'm into. A couple weeks, I'm gonna go to Perrysburg High School and talk about podcasting. Yeah. So like I really like that, and I want to ask all these questions, and they it's called Jacket U. It's like teachers and administration bring in like what they're into, what their hobbies are, and then kids and other teachers can sign up and like listen about it if they're interested. And I talked to the principal. He said there's a couple students that are really interested in coming and listening to your podcast thing.
It's amazing.
Like, awesome. So I probably have the same fascination as you do, or excitement when people ask you about it, because you're just like waiting. Sometimes that's how I feel. Like,
yes,
waiting for people to ask me about it.
It's like, how do you know somebody big sourdough? It's like, don't worry, they'll tell you. Like. That's how it is, for sure.
That's awesome. So Do you just when you're at the chiropractic office? Because I notice like your certain hours, and it makes sense when you talk about all these other things you do. Because you're like, here's my hours this day. We're off these days. I'm like, oh, then when these days are off, you're probably gone or doing, going to be that mentor and that kind of stuff, right? That's why you start setting these things. For sure. So when you were in school, did they have this program too?
No.
So it's a newer thing. How does it benefit you think, when you're doing this mentorship program?
Yeah. There are seasons of life. And when you're in the season of being a student, it doesn't matter if you're a chiropractic student or a professional student in any other way, you're in the season where you just need people around you that are feeding into you. If you don't, you feel like you're on an island. You feel like you're doing it on your own. You probably feel helpless, like every little decision, you don't know if it's the right one. So it's really helpful if you find somebody that's maybe like 5 to 10 years ahead of you that is where you would like to be. I think that's what I tell students is like, you may not want to have a life that looks just like mine, but there's somebody within our mastermind organization that probably does have a life that looks very similar to what you envision in your mind, what you would like to, be doing at that point. And then follow them, ask them questions, So as you grow, then all of a sudden when you're in my stage of life, where you're not thinking about literally every decision of your business day every single day. It's like things are running, things are good. You've established a brand, you've established your technique, you know what you got to do to help people, you've helped people. Yeah. Like that's the other thing as a student, like you've never helped people. And when you open up your doors, like, yeah, you have a lot of book knowledge, but like in the back of your head, you're like, am I actually going to be able to help people? Like I've never done it before. So sometimes just being able to encourage the students with the testimonies and be like, yeah, I had this guy came in and he was red in the face and all bent over, and it was like 2-3 adjustments and the dude was like able to go to work again. His ability to make an income was back. Like we changed his life, totally saved his life in that way. And they just need to be told like, yeah, that's possible. That is going to be me. Oh, yeah. So I think as a mentor, I've heard it said sort of like if you get into your professional life and you never have a way to mentor others, you become like the Dead Sea. Like you've had inlets of information to you your entire life, but if there's no outlet, then you become salty and life does not exist in you like the Dead Sea. It's like that's the way you are if you don't mentor others. So I've always thought that that's a very important, if you want to call it a hobby job, but like it's a very important piece of my life because it keeps me fresh, it keeps me young, it makes me always want to be better so that I can provide more for, I guess, send the elevator back down to the people. That's just like somebody sent the elevator down to me with older students. And there was one particular doc. This organization didn't exist, but there was one particular doc that kind of took us under his wing when we were students, and that's kind of like how this was birthed.
And I think your thing, it's called Masterminds.
Yeah,
it's
called Amped, but it's a chiropractic mastermind. Yeah. Sorry. Okay,
so it's an official thing. Here's what we do, this kind of stuff. But there's a lot of people that's where it's unofficial, right? So you could have you could just be at a job and have a supervisor or a boss that's really good at giving you that information, and sometimes it might not even be like. They might not even realize what they're doing. Yeah. But it is a good like mentorship one-on-one thing that it just happens daily because you're there all the time and you're with them. And it's, that is a good analogy where people, get all that information and then there's nowhere like, what do you do with it? Yeah. Like you feel empty or you feel like, or maybe it's the other way. Like I have all this information. No one else is going to have it. I'm sure some people feel that way too, but they, to want to help people or even, I think there's way more people doing it than they even suspect that they're doing it.
And that's a beautiful thing when it's just like happening naturally between people that are just a little bit ahead of you in whatever you're doing.
Yeah. So I know a little bit about you. First of all, that is one of the better nerd out segments we've had. So it's like, again, super nerdy, and it's not going to stop because we're going to talk about chiropractic care, and I'm sure that's really nerdy too. Yeah. But I do want to start from where you grew up. You grew up around this area?
Yeah, Waterville.
You went to Anthony Wayne? Mm-hmm. Did you play any sports or anything in high school?
I played soccer. Okay. I would say I was middle of the road talent. I was never going to go collegiate or anything like that.
Did you play all 4 years?
I did. Yeah, nice. I played my whole life. You know, I played since U9, but yeah, I played my whole life. And I don't really play now. My son plays now, and I find myself, I'm not a coach, but I find myself accidentally yelling coaching instruction from the sideline, so I might have to remedy that eventually. But
does your wife say, "Hey, knock it off"?
She's like, "You should just talk to Brad and see if you can help him out and whatever." But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
As someone who's been coaching for a long time, it is one of the most awesome things, especially when they're little kids.
Yeah,
because the change from the beginning of the season to, let's say, if it's softball or baseball, 6 months later is like astronomical.
It's
and
wild.
You can see it. You know,
I love it. I don't know that I would enjoy it as much when they're older, because right now they're just so open to everything. I'm like, dude, if you just learn this pullback, like in soccer, if you just learn this pullback, you're gonna be a god in all of the 6 and 7 year olds. If you can, I show them like the spin move, all this kind of stuff. If you can learn this, if you can kick with your left foot, you're gonna be unstoppable for like a year.
Well, you know what's best is when they do get older. That's kind of, for me, that's kind of when I envision myself stop coaching my own kids, you know, because as a parent or as a coach, I get so many parents that come up to me and be like, "Hey, can you tell my son X, Y, and Z because he'll listen to you?" Because we're not, you know, I'm not his parent, right? So there's always going to be that conflict of parent and kids, no matter how good your relationship is. At some point, there's going to be a conflict about something, big or small, whatever. So I see myself like, if Mateo, my son, plays football, like I'm still going to be a coach, but I'm not going to be like directly his coach, maybe, you know. So I'm trying to. That's just my life plan. But I agree with you. Like now when they're little, like I think the only reason my daughter's playing softball is because I'm the coach. Yeah. So I'm afraid like if we're playing travel softball for the first time this year. I'm afraid like next year if I decide not to do it, like she'll stop playing. Yeah. But I want her to keep playing because I enjoy watching her play more than coaching. Right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. But I also like the coaching aspect of it. But if you do get the opportunity, even if you're like, hey. He's 6. The season's 2 months long. You know, even if you want to test it out, I know you're busy doing, you know, growing bread and that kind of stuff. But like, I always tell the football coaches always have conversations about parents, and I think every parent should coach at least one time to kind of see what it is. I don't care what age, because it's all kind of the same. For sure. I think if they coach one time, they can kind of feel like, maybe I probably shouldn't be yelling at
have some empathy too for like what the coach goes through. Yes, yeah. There were a couple years ago, way back before I had kids. So this was at least like I think probably 8 years ago. One of my best friends that I played soccer with in high school, he was like, "Hey, dude, like I'm in a spot. I need help. I need an assistant coach for like these. I think it was U9 girls." And he's like, "The situation is we had so many girls come out that we had enough for like an A team." And then we had to make cuts. And we had so many come out that we had enough for a full B team. Yeah. And then made cuts and still had enough for a C team. And these girls.
Were you the C team?
I was the C team coach. Yeah. They had no natural talent, no competitive drive. Like, I'm talking about picking dandelions, skipping, being down like 10, 11-0, not caring one bit. Yep. That was my team, but I really did enjoy it. But gosh, those girls could talk and they were so social and I loved them for it, but they, to try and like wrangle them, it was actually a thing of mastery when I watched my friend, like how good he was with them. He's actually an administrator at a school right now. Yeah. And he is in his purpose. Like nice. I have no doubt, like those kids respect him, but also listen to him, but also think he's hilarious. Like, that's the way it was with these kids, and like I admire that. And I think you're right. Like if every parent did 1 year of coaching or assistant coaching to try and see like what it goes into it and how you earn their respect, because it doesn't just happen automatically. Like you have to earn the right to, you know, tell them what to do, and they have to think you're legit and all that stuff. So
can I tell you more? That was evident about earning respect more this year because I coached girls basketball for the first time, freshman girls basketball. Yeah. And I've coached football for over 10 years. It's just like, all right, coach me. These girls made me like work to be their coach. Yeah. Like, they weren't just going to let me, because some of them didn't even know who I was. Yeah. Few were in the band, so they recognized me from football on Friday nights. But man, it was, yes, like I said, they made me work, but it just made it like when I finally was able to like be their coach, it made it that much better because I knew then they accepted me.
That's awesome.
But getting that acceptance is tough. Yeah. You know, and when they're 6 or 7, they don't know that they're doing that still, but it's still part of it.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure. The initiation.
Yeah. So were you involved in anything else in high school, or was it just soccer?
I was a musical nerd was probably nice. my biggest thing. Yeah, so I played soccer in the fall, and then I did the spring musicals. So yeah, I was a music man. Yeah. I was able to, do all that. I did. I think my favorite one was probably Ragtime. Okay. That was a community theater production, but very emotional, very incredible piece. But yeah.
Do you do any of that stuff now?
Not since kids were born. I haven't done any musicals. I think my last show that I did was 1776, which is a pretty awesome like historical musical. I did Les Mis right before the boys were born. I do sing at church, so I don't do like theater, but I do sing at church about once a month.
Okay,
which is nice.
Yeah. So do you like? So one of my favorite things is I like some music too. I'm not huge into musicals. My wife likes musicals, but I do like all the kids movies, and they have I like the music in there.
Oh yeah,
and I like Encanto was one of the recent ones that came out.
Yeah,
love that. We watched it. It was live at I forget where it was, somewhere in California. It was a live performance.
Oh wow!
So with all the like actual voice actors and everything doing other stuff, so that was cool. But I can never get tired of like watching those little kid movies. Now my kids are a little older; they don't watch them as over and over. When my daughter was, I think 4, we watched Moana every day.
Yeah.
Yes. So, like, but do your kids enjoy all those things? All
yeah,
the music and stuff
my kids are interesting. They like movies, but I found like weirdly, I don't know. I've never met any other kids like this that they're very how do I put that? Like they were kind of like they when the lava monster came out in Moana, like they were very freaked out by that, like very scared, like. And they're old, like they were older. I was like, why are you scared of this? Like this is no big deal. It's not real. But like as I'll watch my boys watching something, and their face is just like so like they're feeling exactly what the characters are feeling. So I get it. So yeah, we don't. I guess as far as like the Disney movies, we're just busting into those.
Okay.
And they like them. They like the songs, but still, like I can tell, like I have to reassure them a little bit. I don't know. It's just my boys, and I hesitate to be like, yeah, are you scaredy cat or whatever? But like, no, they're fine. It's just it's just who they are. I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
That and it goes to show like how good these kids movies are too.
Yeah,
right?
like they connect with them.
Deeply.
So yeah.
My wife and the kids just watched a few. I think it was probably a few months ago now, but they watched Matilda the musical. I don't know if you've seen that or not.
Yeah, with the swings and everything. Like that.
Man, they listen to the music. My daughter immediately knows all the songs. And it was like pulling teeth to get them to sit down and watch it. And now they all love it. They'll play the music in the car and everything. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of musicals. It wasn't something I watched, but they like it. And now I listen to the songs all the time. So now I like the songs.
They're familiar.
Yeah.
I find it crazy that like even at school, like when the kids learn like the songs to learn all the states, like and all the continents, and like both my boys know all the presidents in order because of a song. I feel about this big when they're like, "Daddy, who's the 25th president?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't know. Let me look it up." And they just go through the song until they hit number 25, and I don't know, Millard Fillmore, something like that. But yeah, like music is amazing for that and for learning. So they're good at that.
So when you were in high school, did you know you want to be a chiropractor? I mean, your dad is a chiropractor.
My dad is a chiropractor.
So is that something you knew like how long did you know like I'm going to be a chiropractor?
I did not want to be a chiropractor in high school. Yeah, in high school, I don't know that I knew what I wanted to be. I thought for a while that I wanted to go into musical theater. Actually, I was that serious about it. Yeah. I auditioned at several schools and got offers at several schools, and I thought that was what I was going to do. And then I kind of got cold feet. And as a 17-year-old kid, I had to ask weird questions like, do I want to have a family someday? And do I want to work in 9 to 5? Do I want to live near my parents and all that kind of stuff? As a 17-year-old kid, like you don't necessarily know all those answers. Yeah. But the way I answered then was like, I think I do want to have like a regular like lifestyle, not one living in Manhattan or the West Coast or London or whatever. And that would have been my life if I had gone that route. Yeah. And so I pivoted. I put in my application at Ohio State because that's where my best friend was going. And I was like, I guess I'll major in biology. I'm good at science, so
so even doing that, you're still like, I don't know. I guess
I don't know. Maybe
which is, sorry to cut you off, but which is every senior's dilemma, right? Junior, senior dilemma. It's like, and for you to say like, well, do I want to have family? Nobody's gonna say that. Very few people, right?
Yeah.
But for you to recognize that and even make this shift, and then still, which is totally normal for everyone, still go to college and be like, I have no idea what I'm doing here.
Yeah. I mean, now having kids, I'm like, shoot, like should they take a gap year after high school? Like that just wasn't really as common when I was coming through that, when we were coming through that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, a lot of wisdom could be gained in a gap year of working to decide if you want to make this huge student loan investment before diving in, and like knowing, I guess, better direction of where you want to go. But yeah, as a high schooler, I did not know. And honestly, it wasn't until my last year of college that I finally knew my direction, because my degree was, I entered with biology, very quickly shifted it toward health administration, which is sort of like a biology with a business leaning.
Okay.
And I had the idea that I was going to help to administrate and like run a hospital, which is funny where I am now, but I thought I was going to do that. And then, so health administration was the name of my major. And then I eventually took a class called health administration, like the title class.
Yeah.
Hated it.
Oh no!
And
what specific? Can you remember specifics?
Oh yeah. So I had to create a healthcare system. It was like during an election year, so it was like a buzzword thing. So I had to create my own healthcare system for the state of Ohio.
Okay.
And I was given like a certain amount of money to allocate to like take care of people that had nothing, and the elderly, and vision and dental, and I'm oversimplifying it, but basically what my vision was to totally shake up the entire system, because the previous 10 weeks we had learned that system was broken, and that people were being underserved, that people were sicker than ever, that we were taking more drugs than anywhere else in the entire country, and yet we were somehow still sicker, that we had better access, yet people were not getting well, that we were over budget and underserved, and it was just like not a good system. So I was like, well, let's totally break the system and do something different. So I created a system that spent pretty much the majority of my budget on preventative care, including chiropractic. That was where I came from. That's what I knew. Like organic food growth and availability, and like ergonomics, and like workout facilities in like big Fortune 500 companies, that sort of stuff. So it was like these three prongs, and then like other things that like spouted off of it that took the place of all those other things. Long story short, I presented it in front of my class, and you know how class presentations go. Like none of my classmates listened, but I finished up and they're like clapping. And then my professor was like, very interesting. I wish you would have taken it seriously, Mr. Schwanz. And I was like, in front of everybody. And if you want to make like an all-A student like mad, like do that, So I like pushed up my glasses, and I was like, dude, like I did take it seriously. You taught us that the system was broken, so I thought it would be good to like totally break the system and do something new. Yeah. And he was like, okay, whatever, I can see what you did, but I'll tell you what, I'm feeling generous, so I'll allow you to redo it for full credit if you turn it in by next Friday.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was like, whatever. And but on my way out of like the presentation back to my seat, I walked by him, and this is like my origin story. I was like, hey, shame on you, because you got this whole room of college students that could have fresh new ideas, and you're telling us to do the same old tired system that is broken in the first place. And I said, I'm going to help people that can't get help in your broken system. And so that night, literally, I went home and I got online and I looked up chiropractic schools, and I found the one that my dad went to, and I was like, good enough. And I figured out what the prereqs were. So I applied at Columbus State so that I could take classes simultaneously there, as I was also taking them at Ohio State so that I could graduate on time, because I had a big hiking trip after graduation that I wasn't going to miss on the Appalachian Trail. So yeah, I graduated on time, got all my prereqs in, and then when I got back from my Appalachian Trail trip, went down to Georgia and went to grad school, and that was it.
At Life University, right?
At Life University, yeah. Which is where I ran into Andy, who's from here.
Yeah.
But I ran into Andy. He was about 4 quarters ahead of me.
Oh, so you didn't know him?
He went to chiropractic school because of my dad.
Okay.
So I didn't really interact with him until I was down there. But yeah, we became good friends down there and practiced on each other. And he was a good mentorship, but like we were doing it at the same time kind of role.
So did you redo the project?
Yes, I did, because I had to graduate. I know. I had to pass the class.
Yes,
yeah,
right,
I had to do what I had to do. I sold out so that I could do it, but I know. People ask that, and I'm embarrassed to say I did, but yes, that's.
I mean, a lot of people would have done.
Yeah,
it. especially because you, like you said, you get all A's, so you're just gonna.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, I'm sure there was principles, but I also wouldn't have said what you said, to that guy at the time, right?
Yeah.
To the professor. But that is true. How can you spend weeks going through this saying how poor it is and how bad it is, and then expect the outcome to be this like, well, I just told him how crappy it is. And this project should reflect that.
Yes.
But then he got mad when it reflected his teaching. Even,
yes.
Right?
It was a blatant incongruency, and it's that same blatant incongruency that kind of fuels my fire today as a chiropractor.
That's pretty crazy. I did like how you said it's your origin story, but it is pretty crazy how that night you're just like, all right, I'm a chiropractor now.
Yeah, that was it. Like, I hate when people are...
not your dad who's been doing it for years.
Yeah, I know. He's like, are you kidding me? No, but like when people are telling stories and they're like, and it was in that moment that I realized. I'm like, no way. Like, nobody realizes that. But nope, that was me. It was literally in that moment that I realized I was going to be a chiropractor. So yeah, that was how it happened.
Oh my gosh, that's pretty awesome. And I think it's really cool too to have a point like that, because I think you can go your life and just be like, I don't know how I got here or how it happened.
Yeah.
For me, it wasn't like someone did something. At one point, Andrea and I was like, I got to go to college. I got to get a degree in something. And I've told this story here before, but I took the Owens catalog, flipped through it, dog-eared a bunch of pages, probably ended up with 60.
Yeah.
Then went back, did it again, kept dumbing it down until I had 2. One was what I ended up being was landscape turf grass management, and the other one was X-ray tech. I don't know why, I don't know how.
Cool.
And then ultimately what decided it was like, I'd rather be outside than inside. And that's what happened.
That's great.
That's why I got my degree.
Good to know about yourself.
Yeah, but I know that like if it wasn't for that conversation we had that night, like I wouldn't be where I'm at right now, possibly.
Honestly, that's a really good method. Like, I don't blame you at all. And I think more kids should do that.
I do agree with you the fact that we talk about our kids too. Like, what are they gonna do when they get to college, like in high school to college? Because I would have loved if someone was like, I don't think you're ready for college. Maybe take some time off, because I graduated with a 2.3 in high school.
Yeah.
I didn't try. If I tried a little bit, I could have got all B's, but I just didn't try.
Yeah.
And I think if someone would have saw that I'm not trying in high school, I'm not going to try in college when I have to do everything by myself.
Yeah.
If someone would have recognized that. But,
nightmare.
But, at the time, like you said, and I think we're getting away from that just as a society,
hope so.
right? I think people are, just as I talk to more people in schools and stuff, they are, Penta's a huge thing. I love Penta.
Oh, yeah. I just spoke at Penta the other day.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I spoke to their cosmetology program, because I want them to be able to be happy cosmetologists that aren't dealing with like repetitive injuries from having their arms up and doing colors and stuff like that. So I did like a whole posture pod kind of thing. Yeah, it was really cool actually. One of my patients teaches over there, and she invited me, and I was like, oh yeah, I love Penta. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
I always tell the kids, like I always talk to high school kids, and I always try to do try to say it's okay that you go to Penta, because when I was in high school, if I said I was going to Penta, you'd be made fun of, and that's why I didn't go. Otherwise, I would have went too, right? So that's still there a little bit, but everything's. I think they're making a shift. Even a friend of mine, he's a junior high principal. He says when he talks to kids, he doesn't ask them what they want to do. He asks them what kind of lifestyle do you want to live.
Yeah.
And if you like, well, I want to live on a beach and I want to be able to go surfing every morning. Okay, well then you got to find a occupation that helps you live that lifestyle.
Totally.
And I always tell my crew at work, like, I'm really focused on work-life balance. Mm-hmm. And I tell them the same thing. Like, I want you to come to work happy because you get to do these things outside of work, and you're not here for 12 hours. And because if you're not happy here, then you're not going to be happy outside of here, and it's going to make everyone's life miserable.
Yeah.
So I try to just instill in them, like, do stuff. There's even so we just hired a crew leader for my park, and I even told her, like, don't be the person who has 500 vacation hours. Mm-hmm. Like, so I'm almost to the point when I take vacations, I have to calculate, like, all right, will I have enough vacation? Yeah. Because I value that. And I told her, like, don't live your life here. Even my boss, one time I was at football practice and I picked up my phone. He goes, why are you answering your phone? Mm-hmm. I was like, well, you're calling me. He goes, I was just going to leave a message, So I think it's important to have all that.
For sure. There's this concept that I just came across the other day, and I've been thinking about it a lot, called ikigai. Have you heard of that?
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's like a Japanese word that it doesn't mean exactly just this, but it's like sort of like your purpose. Mm-hmm. And it's like the intersection between like your profession, your vocation, your mission, and your passion. And I've been asking myself, like, what are my passions? What's my mission? And for me, with Chiropractic, like, there is a missional component to it that I can't expect every single one of my employees to necessarily share.
Yeah.
But I think we do a pretty good job. And many of our employees, like, truly, they're like, this person needs to get in because, their life is totally going to get changed. Like, I think instilling a bit of missional mindset for that is important to any job, because there's a million things you could do.
Yeah.
So you might as well feel like not only are you making a paycheck, not only am I good at this, not only is it fun, but like the world needs this. And I'm making the world a little bit better because I chose to get up and go to work today. And so I've been thinking a lot about that and like where chiropractic fits into that, and like my other like hobbies, and like and how to lead, I guess, how to lead my employees, my team, in that understanding, like they may not have the same exact passions that I do, but how do you lead someone and like make sure that there is that good work-life balance, and that they're not just they're not working. Like we value like work-life balance too, which is why we work a 4-day work week. We work really hard, for those 4 days, and every weekend is a 3-day weekend. And I think that's a huge benefit for our team. And we try to communicate to that to them. It's like when we're here, we're here. When we're away, we're away. Yeah. And respecting that has always been a really important piece for our office.
Have you ever struggled, or do you struggle with like, I have my goals and my aspirations and what I want to do and what I want this, facility to be and all this stuff. And then you have employees who don't necessarily are, I mean, no one there is negative. Everyone I always interact with is positive. But do you ever feel like the struggle is, I want to do all these things, but they're not up to my level?
In the past, we've had some that are more difficult. I don't think that there's any of them there now, and we train on that. I think that that's not necessarily something that you can expect them to be hired in with. You just have to hire them in with things that are untrainable, like honesty and empathy and kindness, and I think probably like the desire to serve others. If you don't have that, then you're not going to be happy doing what we do, what they do at the office. And yeah, there have been moments of frustration, but at the end of the day, I think ever since I read the book, like Extreme Ownership, that one by Jocko, he told this story where he was he's a Navy SEAL, and he was telling the story of like boat leaders when they're doing this training in Hell Week. And forgive me if you've had anybody on that's talked about this. Like, no. Mine's purely from reading. I don't have any experience, but they would have these boat leaders, and they would go on these races, and whoever got back first would get a break, and whoever got back last would have to go on an extra one.
Oh, wow.
And so it was like the same team was winning every single time, and the same team was losing every single time. And what he did is he took the leader from the winning boat and put him on the worst boat, and took the leader from the losing boat and put him on the winning boat. The teams stayed the same, but the leaders changed.
Yeah.
And after about 3 rounds, the team that had been losing all of a sudden started winning.
Wow.
And so that illustration is like in me now. It's like if there's something going wrong in the office, it's not their fault. It's my fault. And if it's a person that shouldn't be on the team, it's my fault for leaving them on the team. So it's my responsibility to kind of protect the culture and the direction that we're going. And if there's one person that is not pulling their weight, then it's up to me to like either rehabilitate them or train them or ease them out of the team, And so, that extreme ownership, like it's all on the leader, is something that I try to, bring to the practice all the time.
Do you feel you can share that leadership role with the other 2 chiropractors that are there?
Yeah. I do, and it's been a cool way. The way that we've been growing our practice has been different than I think a lot of businesses.
I just, sorry to cut you off, but I just didn't know, like, no, you're answering it right. I didn't know if it was like some offices where they're in your building doing what you want to do, but it's like kind of their own thing. You know what I mean?
Like the chiropractors?
Yeah, because like here,
Gotcha.
Even in the building we're at now, there is a person who has the room over, has her own little studio, and she does her own thing there. So I know you guys are all one thing. I just didn't know if it was like we're all together in this.
Yeah, we're very much all together in it, and I think that just happens with like I didn't put out an ad, and our chiropractors that we have here didn't like answer the ad and like interview, like having not had a relationship. Like I met Dr. Allison through the mentorship program. Like I mentored her as a student and helped to bring her through the process. And like when she came to graduation, she saw a video that I posted online when we were moving to our new facility. And I said, hey, and I was just showing around, and it was on Facebook or whatever. I was like, these are adjusting rooms 3 and 4. Like currently we don't have a doc to fill these, but prayerfully we're hoping that eventually like somebody will come in and fill these. And she saw that, and she said that she was like crying watching it. She's like, those are mine. And she like, emailed me, said, hey, I want to come and visit. How can I serve your office? And it was like this, how can I serve for free? How can I come up and work for you and do all sorts of different things as a student?
Yeah.
And in doing so, like when the time came where she was coming to graduate, I was like, hey, no brainer. Do you want to come and be a part of our team? And that's kind of how that went. And the same, like similarly with Dr. Dustin, I took care of his mom. She had a really great experience with chiropractic in our office. He was at BG at the time, like just as an undergrad student.
Yeah.
And he was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Like, this is pretty cool. He came and shadowed a couple times, ended up going down to Life University as well. And like, this was the long game. It was like 4 years later. He eventually, like when it came to time to graduation, we were like, dude, like I've known you since you were like 19 or 20, like come on in. Yeah. So it's a little bit different in the sense where like some businesses that grow and then you need to hire, like I knew those guys since way before they were even like doctors at all. So we're definitely like on the same mission, like pulling like in the same boat, just like stroking all in the same unity. So
and they, I would assume, being in charge or being their leader, they kind of one, you were a mentor to, right. But they kind of like go with your flow too, as opposed to so if you're all trying to send out the same message, it's a kind of an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
As far as being the leader.
I think at the end of the day, like the messaging, it's helpful to come from like one source.
Yes.
That's a really hard thing. If it comes from multiple sources, it gets muddied, or, people have different styles. So we do try to like allocate our jobs in different ways. And so I do a lot of the messaging, like even if Dr., well, I guess this wouldn't totally be true, but if you were seen by Dr. Dustin and you're like, hey, you should come on my podcast, like we might have been like, hey, maybe Dr. Tyler should go out and do the podcast.
Okay.
Not because I'm any better, but just because like I pretty much like am the messaging guy within the practice, like the storyteller.
Well, there could be too many cooks in the kitchen where it's like where it's overload here. There's too many people talking. We do have to focus, and I think every company or place has that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So we've mentioned Life University several times. We also mentioned your practice without actually saying it. So we should probably say that. The name of your practice?
Yeah, the name of the practice is Rebel Chiropractic.
Okay.
And people want to know why we named it Rebel. I have some friends down south that they're like, hey, dude, like that would not fly down here. Like, how did you name yourself Rebel? I'm like, it's not like that. It's not like that. But no, we were previously named Waterville Chiropractic Clinic. And Dad named it that because he wanted to be the town doctor.
Yeah.
He wanted people to come to see him for anything. Like, even if it was something that chiropractic could not, like, fix in that moment, he wanted them to, like, feel comfortable to come to see him first so that they could show him the thing and he could tell them with confidence, like, what professional they needed to seek. He wanted to be the advocate for everybody in this small town of Waterville. As we entered into like year 25 of practice, I was like, Dad, like, what's this look like for the next 25 years? Like, are we going to expand someday? What does it look like when you transition out? Like, right now, Waterville Chiropractic Clinic only works if we're only in Waterville.
Yeah.
So he said we should probably do some sort of a rename, some sort of a rebrand. And which after 25 years of developing a brand sounds a little bit like suicide, but like I feel like we did it okay. So Dad and I, we took a retreat. Just he and I, we drove for a couple hours. We found a little coffee shop just to get out of town, just to get some clarity, and we just started brainstorming and writing down on paper like who are organizations that we admire, who are people that we admire, either alive or dead, historical, whatever. And when we looked at the list of all those people, we're like, what do these people have in common? We're like, well, that person stood up for what they believed in the face of oppression. Like, that person stood up for people who had no voice. Like, that person, led a colony to become a nation. Like that person. So we were like, you know what? Like, is it revolutionary? Is it whatever? And then we were like, rebel.
Yeah.
And then we were like, yeah. And then we started riffing on that. We're like, rebels. Yeah. Because like we want to name our practice after the people who we want to attract.
Yeah.
We want to attract other rebels. We want to attract people that maybe in their own family, they're the only person in their family that doesn't own a microwave because they just don't want to have that radiation on their food. And like the rest of their family is like, you're weird. And they're like, yeah, so what? But then they come to our practice and they're like, oh, there's other people like me. Like there's other people that spend 3 times or 4 times as much on food because they value that organic, food kind of concept, or like homegrown, or, raw milk and all that kind of stuff. Like we wanted to attract those kind of people. They are our people, because you could feel like a black sheep in your own family, and that's hard. We wanted to give them a community, so that's why we named it Rebel. And through the buffalo on there, you probably heard me talk about the buffalo before, but yeah, it's like
so there is, and I do want to talk about that. So for the last 2 years of our old head coach, the last 2 years of his being the coach, he let me come up with the slogan for the season, which was pretty cool. I like doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the years was Into the Storm.
Sweet.
And I explained it to him, and it was partly through Rebel, and then I have heard that before about how buffaloes, most like cows, will go. They see a storm, like, oh my gosh, this is scary, I'm going to run away, and it just multiplies the time that they're in the storm. Yeah. Buffalo go into the storm, go towards it, knowing if I go towards it, it's going to be moving one way. I'm moving the other way. It's going to lessen it, right? I'm sure you have
100%.
Way more elegant way of explaining it.
No, that's it, man.
But so I explained it to the coach, and that's so that he he explained it to the team and everything, and it was cool. And we had my favorite shirts that we had are the slogans that I came up with, because I was proud, and I just wanted to do more for the varsity team. He let me do it, but partly was from your team, right? So, cool. It is a cool thing and a cool message, and the way we kind of labeled it for them is basically that story. Like, hey, we're going to be the team that goes full charge. We're going to go into this. We're not going to back down. We're not going to run away when we see something bad and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Or it's going to be hard or whatever. We're going to make it a lot harder for a lot short amount of time, but we're going to be better for it.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's what the cold plunge is all about, right? Yeah. Into the plunge, it's just like I can do anything for just 10 minutes. So, yeah.
Well, that's great. I appreciate you. Like, I kept getting through. I'm like, oh yeah, we have not mentioned Rebel, so we should.
That's so funny. You're right. That's not why I'm here.
You're here for you, but that's a big part of you.
Yeah,
right?
for sure, huge part.
Another big part in your life was Life University.
Yep.
Like I said, we mentioned it a few times. When you went there, I mean, you had at that point you're like, oh man, now I know what I'm doing, right? But I would imagine when you told your origin story, you figured out this is what I want to do, but then it magnified when you went down there.
Yeah.
I would imagine, right?
Yeah. So before I had my very first class, so class started on a Wednesday. I had a technique club for the Gonstead technique that took place on Tuesday. And so my dad practiced this Gonstead technique. That's what I thought chiropractic was. It wasn't until I got to Life University that I realized there's like tons, tons of different techniques. I was like, this is cool. I have a chance to reinvent myself and maybe not do exactly what Dad did and all this kind of stuff. I explored different techniques, came back to my first love of Gonstead. It was way I loved getting adjusted. It was the specificity of it. It was the difficulty of it. Like everybody on campus, like I'm not joking. Like anybody who listens to this who's a chiropractic student is like, he's right. Everybody's like, I would do Gonstead, but it's just so hard. Okay. I would do it, but I get success in these other techniques. Like I can adjust earlier because it's easier. But then they get to Gonstead Club and they start to hit walls and like hit failures and they get discouraged and they just like don't stick through it. And that's why I was thankful for Andy like coming through that, because he was doing the Gonstead work the same time I was. So we'd like practice on each other. But yeah, man, like the clarity that I had and the focus and the desire to be like a Gonstead chiropractor once I got to Life University, only because it's like, you can love something, but until you see everything else that's out there and realize, nope, I still love this the absolute most, like that means more.
So I'm assuming there are chiropractors who feel like this is the superior method, but are there other methods that are like, I don't even know why they're teaching that?
There are to me.
Yeah.
There are to me. And that all of those, would be like opinions of mine, I think.
Okay.
There are some techniques that truly I don't think there's any sort of like research basis or anything like that, or it's very minimal. So if you want to go that way and like actually have like a, something to stand on, I think there are a few techniques that are a little bit more, harder to understand, harder to define, harder to research, harder to study. Whereas Gonstead is very easy to research, very easy to study. Dad.
Well, that too, I would imagine. Like, if it's easier to research and do all that stuff, it's also easier to articulate to your patients, right?
Totally.
Yeah,
Gonstead is known as an intersegmental technique, meaning there's like two spinal segments, one sitting on top of another. And when one becomes misaligned, it puts pressure on the surrounding tissues. You can define it as all these different dysfunctions, whether it's a tissue dysfunction, muscle dysfunction, nerve dysfunction, or maybe even just dysfunction of the organ that nerve was going to.
Yeah.
So these are all things that you can measure, that you can see, that you can plug electrodes into and see the functions of. You can even put if you've seen anybody with all the electrodes on their brain, like on their head, like an EEG, you can deliver a Gonstead chiropractic adjustment and see like how it influences and lights up portions of the brain.
Okay.
So that was really important to me when it came to Gonstead, is like, how am I going to actually communicate this to people that know zero about chiropractic at all?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not here to talk to them about like a lot of this like deep neurological stuff. I just need to, at the end of the day, tell like a plumber pipe fitter that comes in to my office that says, "Hey, I'm dying," and I can tell him like, "Hey, I can help you. Like, you got a bone that's stuck, and I'm going to unstuck it." Like, sometimes that's my lay lecture. That's as complicated as I get for some people, because that's all they want. That's all they need. All they need to know is like, I'm in the right spot. This guy can help me. He knows what my problem is, and he's going to take care of it as quickly as he can.
How do you shake the perception that chiropractors are like quacks? Or because for a while it was, insurance didn't cover a lot of that stuff, right? So how do you shake that? And on the same token, I think part of it is people have come across chiropractors who think they can, anything that's ever been wrong with you, they can fix.
Right.
And I don't know, we've never had that conversation. I don't know where you are on that, but how does all that just like, how do you just get that perception away?
Cool. I'm happy to answer both those questions.
Yeah.
But I've always lived my life in an attitude like, I can't change someone's perspective of every chiropractor or of all chiropractic. All I can change and all I'm in control of is their perception of me.
Okay.
So there's this concept of like, how you do anything is how you do everything. So I figure if I operate in excellence with everything that I do, then people that experience me as a baker or as a public speaker or as whatever, they're like, he handles himself really well in the community. Like, he's on this board and has, helped out with this or whatever. He seems like he's living life well. I don't think that he would be all in, like sold out to a cause that has no validity whatsoever. Yeah. And they at least at that point in time give me an ear. And they're like, "Hey, like, I've always heard this. So I thought it was weird or whatever, but I want to hear it from you. Like, could you explain it to me?" And what I find is like at the office, like systematically impregnated with our procedures is the education. Yeah. Like, nobody gets through the door to get adjusted by me without first committing to saying like, all right, I'll hear from you exactly what we're going to be doing for you. Some would call that informed consent. At most medical offices, informed consent is nothing but a form that you check a bunch of boxes and you definitely don't read, and you sign and date, and it probably says like you're going to die in all these different ways, or you could. Our informed consent is active. It is conversational. It is ongoing. It is procedural. And I find that combats that quackery kind of mentality, which is dying off, by the way. It's more like, that was more like my dad's generation. Yep. Thankfully, as there have been more and more professionals, medical doctors from my generation that are getting out to be in practice, they are referring to us. Nice. As opposed to being like our enemy or competitor or whatever.
Well, even when I went with when I had a herniated disc, they didn't say anything about a chiropractor. Mm-hmm. My doctor, they said, well, your insurance wants you to try rehab, physical therapy, and then if that doesn't work, we'll have surgery. And I just thought, okay. Well, so then I did it, and I had my first surgery, and it was fine. It worked.
Yep.
But then when I had my second one, no one said like, you had one already. It's the same procedure. We'll just do it again on a different spot or whatever. I said, okay. But then that's when Andy's like, no, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that, even that was what, I don't know. I was probably early 20s, 24. So that was 14 years ago,
man.
And they weren't doing that. So
yeah. I think a lot has been changing, and maybe that's just with like social media too. I don't know. Like information is just more available than ever. I guess to answer the second question of like chiropractors that think that they can cure anything, help anything, whatever. I think that my attitude toward health in general is chiropractic first.
Okay.
So chiropractic first, drugs second, surgery last. And if you gotta get to that last point, great. Like you said, you had a really good experience with your disc herniation reduction. There are times and places where drugs are necessary. Like these are things that exist for a reason, I guess is what I'm saying. And sometimes people will unfairly put me into a box and think like, oh yeah, he's a chiropractor. He doesn't believe in modern medicine. He doesn't believe in any of that. He's going to judge me if I go that direction.
Yeah.
And that just couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah.
And as a part of my informed consent, like presentation, we called our orientation, new patient orientation. I actually put up a picture of one of my friends who's a chiropractor, and their C-section. And I was like, hey, like the reason I'm showing you this is because this little girl 100 years earlier probably wouldn't have survived.
Yeah.
She had a tumor growing off of her tailbone that weighed like 14 pounds. She only weighed like 6 pounds or something like that. Like, I don't know how you get that out without a cesarean section. So it's like, I put that up there to let them know, like we eventually like have to go through this process, but chiropractic, it's totally non-invasive. Like, you don't put anything into the body, take anything out of the body.
Yeah.
When done correctly, it is absolutely harmless. Like, there is nothing that a Gonstead chiropractor who is doing their job correctly can do to injure somebody. Like, it's just going to be, there's only going to be like good chiropractic. The guy who started our technique, Dr. Clarence Gonstead, said if chiropractic isn't working, don't question chiropractic, question the administration of it. Like,
okay,
we need to get better. We need to strive to get better and go to more seminars and practice more and be in practice longer. So yeah, I guess that's my answer is like chiropractic only really, like by definition, should be used for one thing, and that's for the reduction of vertebral subluxation. And what vertebral subluxation is those misaligned vertebrae putting pressure on the nerves. If a chiropractor says I can cure asthma, I can cure, diarrhea, I can cure whatever, like that's a miscommunication. We don't cure any of that. All we take care of is taking pressure off the nerve, and then as a result, if we're doing our job right, the theory, the science behind it is that the brain will become aware of that colon. The brain will become aware of the stomach or the heart or whatever organ that they're trying to help function better, and that organ will function better, and that dysfunction will go away, and their symptoms will go away, and it will be cured, but not as a direct result of the chiropractic adjustment.
You're not adjusting the organ.
No, I'm not adjusting the organ. I'm not curing the disease. I'm taking pressure off of the nerve.
Yeah.
We're just basically like switchboard operators. Like, if there's no connection between here and here, like this is what the adjustment does, and then it's that person talking to that other person, that brain talking to that organ that's eventually going to heal that person.
Well, as your patient, I appreciate that knowledge, because like I said, we've never had that conversation. I mean, we see each other. When I go in there, it's like 3 minutes and I'm out of there. So it is good to know, and it kind of goes back to your dad. I mean, right? Your dad did that same thing. Like, hey, come see me, and then I'll take you to these other places.
Yeah.
So basically, you're saying the same thing. Like, come see me. If this isn't working, well, then go to this doctor or get on. I think I've seen good with this drug, or like you said, well, then you're gonna have to do surgery if X, Y, and Z, didn't work.
Yeah. The good news is like the studies exist. Like people that do see chiropractors regularly, like take something like 60% less drugs.
Sure.
Like they spend way less time in hospitals. They have way far fewer surgeries. So like the good news is it is working.
Yeah.
And it's like chiropractic first, drug second, surgery last. But like it's working really good. Like if you want to have to try to avoid that stuff, like chiropractic is a great place to start.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming out here, man. This is awesome. I always tell people an hour, so I try to stick to that, but cool. I mean, we probably could talk for forever. But you probably got some bread to make or something.
Definitely.
Before we go, I want to say again, thanks to Fort Meg's
Sweet.
Fort Meg's CrossFit. for allowing me to use their studio. They have classes 7 days a week. If you don't have any experience, they got classes for you. Check out their website, fortmakescrossfit.com. Thanks again, man. This was awesome. I got to know you a little bit better, and I'm pleased to be seeing you, and hopefully I don't go another 4 years and have a hiatus like that. So.
Love it, man. Thanks for having me on.
What a great episode. Dr. Tyler, I appreciate you coming on here. Just learning more about basically what he's doing to my body was pretty interesting. Learn about the kind of the history of it and how he chose the Gonstead method was real interesting. If anybody, like I said, like we said in the episode, it's Rebel Chiropractic. I'd recommend anybody going there. They have 3 great chiropractors. I happen to see Dr. Tyler, but he has 2 more there that are awesome from all accounts. So check them out if you're thinking you need to go see a chiropractor. I couldn't recommend anybody more. Thanks again to Fort Meigs CrossFit, Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab, Big Daddy Graphics, and Cuttlefish Graphics for the logo. This has been a Nerdball podcast. Thanks again to my guest, Dr. Tyler. It was great for him to come out here, explain all about the Gonstead method, basically what he's doing to my body. It was good to learn all that information. I got a lot of it during my orientation, but it was good to hear him and get more and more specifics about his time at Life University and how he chose that. But it was great. I can't recommend Rebel Chiropractic more if you think you're in need of chiropractic care. Again, before I leave, I appreciate Fort Meigs CrossFit for allowing me to use their space, Cuttlefish Graphics, Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab, Real JP Multimedia, and Big Daddy Graphics for helping out the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.